This is the Connecticut Water Guy Hour. And now here's your host, Paul, your Connecticut Water Guy.
Hi, I'm Paul, your Connecticut Water Guy, and welcome back to the Water Guy Show. Last week, which was our very first episode, very exciting, we had a chance to get in the studio here and get our feet wet, so to speak, on talking on the radio with nobody to really respond back. But it was quite awkward, but we covered some cool stuff: chlorine, hardness in your water, and where your water comes from. So if you missed that one, we may replay that later on or have that available on our as an audio on our YouTube channel. But definitely check that one out, because chlorine and hardness are the two biggest things that we get called out to help fix in a home. This time, we're going to go ahead and talk about the other huge issue that everybody wants to talk about, and that's drinking water. It always blows my mind when I hear folks that still drink from the tap. But I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this myself personally for over 8 years, every day, every moment of my life, and I can definitely tell there are a lot less people now than 8 years ago that actually even consider drinking out of the tap without some sort of filtration put on it. It's pretty cool to see that people are definitely taking their own health into their own hands, and having drinking water. A lot of people just assume that the water that comes in must be good to drink because it's coming in through the pipes. And we hear everything from, well, it must be good because I pay for it, all the way to it must be good because I have a well. And we actually have some facts and myths up on our website, connecticutrichmond.com. And I would invite everybody to go check that out, because we have a whole bunch of information posted there, not just on those topics, but tons of other things that we have found throughout the years that definitely set us apart in trying to make sure that our customers are definitely educated and understand what's in their water and what the options are. But do some self-research, connecticutrichmond.com. That's kinetic energy, like kinetic energy with an O on the end, KINETICO, richmond.com. And our YouTube channel is the exact same. Look for Connecticut Richmond, and you'll be able to find our YouTube channel. We're building up quite a library of how-to videos and other just cool demonstrations and things about water on there. So I invite you all to go on that and subscribe. It definitely helps with us coming up sooner on the search. So like and subscribe if you get anything out of those. Or you can call us. We've got our office open Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 5:30 are our current hours, and if those change, they are updated in real time on Google. So any questions at all, just look us up, and we should have any answers on Google Maps, which it pretty much pulls into just about everything. But 877-609-2837, otherwise known as 877-60-WATER. That's how you can reach the team in the office. So let's jump right into drinking water. So the folks that drink right from the tap, honestly, they've kind of decreased in numbers, and most folks know you just don't want to drink anything right out of the tap. I just saw a picture this morning that it was actually horrifically bad. It was a kitchen faucet, and it had black slime all over it. And the first question is, what's in my water? Well, that was an interesting one, because really it isn't, at that point, it's not what's in your water, it's what's in your air, but that's a whole separate show. So either way, it shows that your drinking water, if you're drinking from the tap, was basically being filtered by a bunch of mold and mildew. So that's never good. So we have options where you can get your drinking water from a dedicated tap that dispenses purified water. And the purified water It's got actually a very easy to clean spout that comes off of it, but purified water, for the most part, doesn't really harbor any bacteria or mold or mildew, because there aren't any nutrients in it that those organisms are going to need to survive. So, drinking water, you either drink from the tap, or you drink through some sort of a filter, or best case, you drink purified water. And I'm going to go ahead and try to just break all of this down in terms of which one we feel is far better for your health. So let's start with regular tap water. Regular tap water can have all sorts of things in it, especially if it's a well coming in, because wells, it's basically you're getting your water out of a hole in the ground. There's no good way to say that other than you're going to pull out whatever's coming into that hole. And some of the shallow wells, you're going to be pulling in things that were on or near the well casing. Could be yard fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and pet doo-doo washing down in there. I've seen folks with chickens uphill from their well, and when it rains, all that chicken coop gets washed out and goes right down near the well, which of course goes down into the water, and you end up eventually putting that inside your body in one way or another. So there's a lot of just crazy stuff. So at a minimum, everybody listening needs to consider some sort of filter. And if we just kind of focus in, when I say filter, there's what we call mechanical filtration, which is a fancy way of basically catching sand and grit. And then we can use materials like carbons and things like that to actually chemically kind of adsorb contaminants like gases in the water. But the basic behind the filters, let's just talk about the holes in a lot of these filters. Now, kind of like an air filter in your car or an air filter in your house. Actually, an air filter in the house is a really good example, because when you go to one of the big box stores to buy replacement air filters, you have some different options. You can get the filter that is basically, it looks like some fishing line is just thrown over a stretch of cardboard, and it really doesn't catch too terribly much except for the big stuff. And then you see that the better filters, you can't see through them. They're obviously going to catch more stuff. They're what we would call a finer mesh size. And then the real expensive ones, they're literally going to catch pretty much everything that's in your air. Well, filters for your water are very similar, and we usually rate those in terms of microns. And if you go to the store to replace your water filter, we see it all the time that those can range anywhere from 1 micron all the way up to 50 microns. And a lot of folks just kind of grab whatever they can. They don't really understand the difference between them. But the smaller the number, the smaller the hole that the contaminants can get through, meaning solid particles. So everybody, no matter where you live, could benefit from having a whole house filter, a sediment filter, just to be able to catch grit and things that are coming in from any water source, whether it's city water, county water, municipal. It could be a community well, could be a private well. Everybody that doesn't have a filter is using their house as a filter. And you can see that whenever you pull off the aerators on your faucets or your shower heads. You can see all the debris that gets clogged up in there and eventually slows down the flow. So a whole house filter is something everybody can benefit from. And for drinking water specifically, the most restrictive filter that they have is about 1 micron in size. that's kind of an agreed upon thing to be able to catch almost all of the parasites. But when it comes to viruses and bacteria, for example, it doesn't even come close. So I actually did I failed miserably the first time I tried to do it. I tried to do a drawing where I showed a hole, basically a big circle on a piece of paper, and that circle represented 1 micron of a hole through a filter. So it was designed to show how big the hole is in a very good drinking water filter. And then with that circle, I drew the size of a circle that the smallest bacteria would be. Now, bacteria is bigger than a virus, and the smallest bacteria is about 0.15 microns. So to try to put that in perspective, if you were to look at, let's say almost everybody has a car. Imagine a ball that's as big as your car is long. That's about 1 micron in terms of what we're going to kind of go over the radio and try to visualize. The tire on your car represents about 0.15, which would be like the smallest bacteria. So if the hole in the filter is the length of your car, you can see that a car tire has no problem going right through there. So it gets even more interesting because if you look at, let's say on that car tire, you have a golf ball, and that's even a big one. Pretty much a golf ball represents 0.01 microns, which is about the size of a small virus. So you can see that the golf ball has no problem going through something even as small as the tire, but definitely no problem just passing right through something that's as big as a car. And that just goes to show what the filtration is capable of. Now, if you can imagine this golf ball next to your tire, next to your car, if you were to snip off a piece of your hair, the size of that little piece, the diameter of your hair represents about the size of a pore in the reverse osmosis membrane, which that's the kind of stuff that we use to actually purify the water. I'm sure a lot of folks on the radio have heard of reverse osmosis, but this little visual that I hope I was effective in getting across shows that no matter what, you've got something that filters out a car compared to something that filters out a hair off your head. So reverse osmosis catches far more stuff. It catches even the smallest of viruses and bacteria, where in the 1 micron drinking water filter, there are parasites that you not only have to have 1 micron, but you have to have what's called absolute 1 micron, which means it's laboratory tested and it is impossible for something that's 1.001 to make it through. And that's important because some parasites have these creepy little stages of eggs and larvae that live in cysts. And some of these cysts are so doggone small that you literally have to go that below 1 micron to be able to capture them. Cryptosporidium up in Milwaukee was a perfect example of a parasite that got into a public water supply. But that's a story for another episode. So I hope that was effective in showing you reverse osmosis basically catches everything. Our philosophy is you're going to want to take out everything from the water and put in what you want. There's no such thing as selectively removing contaminants. And it may sound obvious, but we get calls all the time for folks that have, they've done their, quote, research on the internet. And really all that means is that they kind of went on some site somewhere it could be overseas, could be up in New York and Florida, but they've run into somebody that has tried to tell them that, oh, you need beneficial minerals from your water. And every one of those sites is a company that sells a filter. not a purification system, but a filter, because they know that their device can't take out all the stuff that's in the water. So we get a lot of that where folks are asking about, keeping the minerals in their water. But once we really explain to them, that's really not a good approach. And there's a lot of reasons for it. We're in the final stages of editing and releasing this cool series called Dr. Drinking Water, where over the years we've had so many folks that have asked us questions, and everybody wants to do their research. We actually wanted to do the research for them, so we went out and actually had a series of interviews with a medical doctor who also has a background and a master's in chemistry. So he was like a subject matter expert, and we wanted to be able to give these folks that don't know, they hear from the guy in New York and New Jersey, I hear it all the time, talking about how you want to go with filtered water, not purified water, and you need the minerals that are in your water. So we decided to have an expert weigh in on that, but that's going to be on Connecticut Richmond probably sometime this upcoming week, towards the end of the week. So I'm pretty pumped up about that. But back to the where we were going with this is you want to go ahead, you want to purify the water, you want to put what you want back into it, and let the water do its job in your body, which is obviously to keep you hydrated, keep your cells and your organs working the way they're supposed to allow you to be able to flush toxins out of your system, and to do so without really endangering your health in any way. So that was I hope I didn't nerd out too terribly much on all the numbers. I look at all these numbers and I think, oh my gosh. I tried to relate them to something like the car and the car tire and a golf ball and your hair, to just go ahead and hit home the fact that I tried to put this all on one piece of paper, and I failed miserably because by the time I got into the smaller circles, you literally couldn't even see them. So I had to really come up with a creative way to try to explain that a little better. So I like the car down to the hair analogy. But hard to believe that we are coming pretty darn close to our first break here. Stick around. We're going to be right back with more of the Water Guy Show. Welcome back. In case you've just tuned in, this is the Water Guy Show, and I'm Paul, your Connecticut Water Guy. In our last session, before the break, we were doing a deep dive into the differences between filtration and purification, and which one is going to be better in terms of protecting your health. And it was pretty clear that the best option is not to rely on some sort of filter like a refrigerator filter, or pretty much anything online that does not have a drain of some sort is pretty much just a filter. Reverse osmosis always has a drain line because it takes the water that comes in and it gives you the purest water, and it actually discards the water that it uses to make the pure water. So reverse osmosis water is the way to go. You take everything out, put back in what you want, and you protect your health. Again, this is ConnecticutRichmond.com is our website. You can go visit us, check out, we get a lot of comments about all of the educational things that we post out there, our FAQs. We talk about different water contaminants, and it's just pretty cool, all the stuff that you can pull up. Or if you're ready to talk to one of the members of my team here, all 8 of us at this point, you can call 877-60-WATER, which is 877-609-2837. Or if you want to drop us an email, if that's easier, I got a really easy email address, freewatertest@ConnecticutRichmond.com. Hardest part on that whole thing is spelling Connecticut, which is Kinetico. ETICO. So look forward to hearing from you some way. We do also have that YouTube channel. If you go search for Connecticut Richmond, you'll not only be able to get some cool stuff out there, that videos we put together over the years, but you'll see me, so you won't have to, which may not be a good thing, but you could see me in my varying hairstyles throughout the years here. Just having a little bit of fun while things grow back. So let's see. Before it gets worse, let's jump right into a little bit more on the whole reverse osmosis. So I started as a customer of Connecticut back in 2014, and that kind of led to my career change back in 2015. And it was pretty eye-opening when I saw, number one, the fact that, what the price tag was for a professional water treatment system. It's just one of those, I didn't know what to expect, but for some reason, I wasn't ready for a significant amount of money for drinking water. And I think that's because that's one of those things you could just run just about anywhere, go to the gas station or Home Depot, and for $2 or $3 you pick up a bottle of water, and you're good for a while. And sometimes you try to refill the bottle with something if you can find some decent quality out there. But the reality is that as water is one of those things that it impacts your life, not just today, but for the rest of your life. And I like to kind of joke around with folks. I say, you're not going to get poisoned overnight from the kind of things that are in the water. It's the repeated exposure over and over and over for years in most cases. So you got to look at this. This is the long game. This is really, if you plan on breathing for the next 4 years, you definitely have to consider at least professional drinking water system. So I worked up this cost thing when I was at Home Depot, actually. They have bottled water by the case by a brand called Niagara, and it's actually made with reverse osmosis. So it's identical to what you can actually make in your own home. So I'll give you the nuts and the bolts on this whole thing. A case of water, you're going to get 3.17 gallons of purified water. And with tax, it's about $5.29. So simple math just says that you're paying about $1.67 a gallon. Well, if there's 2 people in your house, we have seen that 2 people use somewhere on average of about 500 gallons of drinking water a year. Now, when I first heard that number, my eyes got all big, and I was thinking, that's a lot of water. That's 100 Home Depot buckets a year. That's just a whole bunch of water. But it's kind of funny, whenever we would go camping or do an out-of-town trip to the beach, I would try to load up with as much water as I possibly could, and I could never bring enough water. We would just go through every friggin' gallon that I would possibly be able to put in the car. My wife was just furious that we had more water than clothes, but I was worried about our ultimate survival down there. So anyway, the 500 gallons per year is a pretty good number. So if you have 500 gallons at $1.67 a gallon, you can figure that 2 people are going to spend about $835 a year, and that's if you drink bottled water that you're buying by the case. Now, if you buy 1 or 2 bottles by themselves at the convenience store, that $835 goes sky high real fast. You can go from $1.67 a gallon up into $6-7 a gallon. It's ridiculous how much markup they have on the individual bottles. So we try to use real numbers, and buying it by the case, that's what most folks end up doing. They spend the $5.30 and bring it home and get more when they need it, which is pretty doggone fast. It's in about like 2 days. If you really use all the water for drinking from the bottles, which is other than the bottles, that's the way. You really want to make sure that all the water that goes inside your body is the best that it can possibly be. But so you got $835 a year, and then almost everybody listening has a refrigerator filter that they have to maintain. Otherwise, the little notification light keeps going off. And if you change your filters when you're supposed to, I don't know what you're seeing out there, but the best that you're going to be able to do is about $100 a year on refrigerator filters. So that's in addition to you buying bottles. And if you don't do that, then who knows what's coming out of the refrigerator, or who knows what's going into your ice, which is obviously what goes through that filter. So your $835 turns into $935 a year when you add in the cost of a fridge filter. So here's where it gets really cool. Connecticut has this amazing reverse osmosis drinking water station that has up to 5 stages of treatment in it, and it can be fully customizable so that if you don't need the full 5 stages, you can get by with the standard 3 stages, or if you've got specific concerns or you want to add minerals back into your water, like we talked about in before the break, you can do that because we have a mineral cartridge that can be added into it. So I was back and forth on talking about prices of anything because it's a very interesting thing. People can hear the words the wrong way. So I want to make sure that I'm really clear. If you were to have what we call our K5, which is a Connecticut 5 cartridge system, let's just go right into the maintenance on that. If you use that unit, it actually counts how many gallons you use, which is different than any other unit that's out there. And this is important because we've got a lot of folks that have one person in the house, and then we have folks that have 11 people that live in the house. Now, it doesn't make any sense to us why you would change the filter every 12 months on something that has 11 people using it at the same rate that you would the single person living out in the middle of nowhere. That's 11 times more usage, but they want you to change the filters at the same rate. So the Connecticut K5 is pretty cool because it actually counts how many gallons leaves the unit. And this is why I used that 500-gallon mark earlier, because the Connecticut keeps track of the gallons, and when you reach 500 gallons, which is what all of the cartridges have been designed and certified for, it will actually let you know. There's a little meter on there that slowly drops as you're using the gallons, and there's a little dedicated faucet that comes with this unit, and you'll see that drop down to a trickle when you use your 500 gallons. So the unit tells you when it's time to change the filters. You don't go off of a calendar, that doesn't make any sense. So you change them when you need to, which means that you're going to save as much money as you possibly can. Because if you're gone for a month or two, you're not going to use the unit, which means you're not going to have any wear and tear on it. Then again, if you have a house full of folks over for holidays, for example, you may be using way more drinking water than you would normally. So it's cool to have a unit that will actually keep track of that for you. And every 500 gallons, it's going to prompt you to change the filters. So a filter change on the basic setup, even having us do it, is about $200. That's everything. That's filters, that's labor. You just let us in, we'll take care of the rest. Super easy. So you just bought 500 gallons of water for $200. The same water that you have been paying $935 for. And you're probably thinking, oh, well, what happened to the refrigerator filter? Well, the K5 is so cool that we can actually hook it up to your refrigerator, if that's possible. Now, we occasionally run into some situations with, let's say, slab construction where we can't get to the pipe that feeds the fridge. It's just physically impossible. or a lot of folks have maybe a basement, but it's got a drywall ceiling up above it, and we can't get over. But we've become pretty much masters at if it can be done, we can do it. So I would say that 9 out of 10 people we're able to connect the refrigerator to. So once we do that, the K5 has in its setup has a delivery tank. Basically, what that means is it's a hydraulic tank. It stores your drinking water up until you need it, and then it uses your own water to squeeze that water out. So it's not an air delivery where it's like pushing air against an airbag or anything like that. It's literally using your own water pressure to help push out the good drinking water, which means we can locate this unit somewhere else. We've got plenty of them that are 50, 75 feet away from the kitchen, maybe in crawl spaces or in a garage. And then you don't lose any space underneath the kitchen cabinet, but we can run the lines over and we can tie into the fridge. And if you've got one fridge, we can tie into it. If you've got an extra fridge in the garage, we can tie into that as well. The cool thing is we can almost tap into unlimited numbers of faucets and fridges once you've got the unit. So it's just it's pretty amazing when you're connected to your fridge. Your ice is going to be clearer. I'm very careful to not say clear because if you make ice, you're going to notice that it's clearer when you have purified water, but you're still going to see this whitish stuff inside the ice, and that's air. There's just nothing that you can do to remove the air on a lot of those. It's just how the ice maker actually works. It takes water that's under pressure, sprays it into a ice cube tray or a mold or however your model particularly works, and then it freezes it, but it does it so fast that the air bubbles that are in the water don't really have a chance to get all the way out of there before they're locked in by ice. But so your ice is noticeably clearer, but the real difference is if we've had folks do this, they take a clear glass and fill it up with ice out of your freezer right now and just put it on the countertop and let it melt. And when you do that, you're going to usually see that the water isn't crystal clear, and sometimes there's some floaties and some weird stuff in the glass, and you probably never paid it much mind. But when you've got purified water, those cubes, when they melt, they will melt perfectly clear. You're going to see nothing but crystal clear water in that glass, and you're going to know that you got the best of the best. And one of the most important parts is now you don't have to buy refrigerator filters anymore. So that's going to save you that $100. So where I'm going with this whole thing is that you get $935 worth of water for $200 a year. That's a savings of $735. And without telling you what the price of the unit is, all installed and tax and everything out the door, in less than 3.5 years, at that rate, you have already paid for the unit. And that's not very long. 3.5 years. I mean, heck, that's how long ago COVID started. It seems like just yesterday. But 3.5 years has already passed since that. So kind of nuts. Well, maybe not quite 3.5, but close enough for what I'm trying to get across is that it won't take you very long before you've actually paid this thing off. So stop looking at it in terms of bottle by bottle or case by case. Don't go to Costco or those other big box stores and just try to stock up on cases, because it's really not going to help you. Just do the math. Just figure 500 gallons a year for 2 people. If you've got 4 people in your house, simple, just double it. But do the math, and when you're able to make your own water for $200 for 500 gallons, that's pretty amazing, and eliminating fridge filters. So let's see. Everybody that's listening to this, I could almost guess is at my age or probably a little a little more experienced, and most of us are looking towards our savings or our retirement and just trying to maximize how long we can go. So imagine if you had an extra $700 a year that was going back into your savings account, or that you didn't have to pull out of your IRA or your 401ks. That's just money that you can push, leave it in there, leave it invested for when you really need it. And it really adds up because, like I said, when you hit the 4-year mark, you're going to start banking at that point. Seems like we're coming up to yet another break. Just stick around, folks. We're going to be right back with more of the Water Guy Show right after this. Welcome back. In case you just tuned in, this is the Water Guy Show, and I'm Paul, your Connecticut water guy. We're in our final segment here of our of the episode that we're going to call Drinking Water. So, at the beginning of the hour, just to get everybody a nice recap and get you up to speed if you missed it, we talked about the differences between filtered water and purified water, and how a filter has holes in it that are about the equivalent of as long as your car is, and the smallest bacteria is about the size of your car's tire, and the smallest virus is about the size of a golf ball when compared to those. And a reverse osmosis purification system, it has holes in it that will filter down to things that are so small that it would be like snipping off one single piece of your hair and looking at the tip of that. So the tip of your hair versus the length of your car, which one would you rather have protecting your health? That was the beginning. It's pretty cool stuff. And then we talked about how reverse osmosis is really, it's the best way to go because you're making sure that you are taking all of the stuff out of the water, and then you can focus in on putting what you want back in the water if you desire. We have a lot of folks that we call purists, and it's just purified water. It's amazing. And even our purified water, we do also run through a final, we call it a carbon polishing cartridge, just to make sure that it's been delivered right out of that unit as fresh and awesome as it can possibly be. But the reverse osmosis is definitely the best. We can add in things like minerals. A lot of folks have expressed interest in getting minerals added back into their drinking water, and we do have a special cartridge for our Connecticut K5 unit that does minerals. It'll also raise up the pH for folks that have concerns about the pH being lower, which it always is in purified water. That's a great way to raise the alkalinity and the pH if that's something that you're looking for. There's really no reason to not go with reverse osmosis water. It's kind of funny because I get folks that push back a little bit and they say, "Oh, well, isn't that going to take out all the minerals?" And I said, "Yeah, you mean like the lead and the arsenic, those?" And then they kind of look at me sideways like, "Oh." I said, "You can't selectively pull out what you don't like. You just pretty much have to start with taking everything out and then putting back what you do want, which is really the best approach. It's truly custom." And we talked about the cost savings, the amazing cost savings just of a professional drinking water system. The Connecticut K5 is the one that I'm going to go ahead and say it on the air because I'm just wild and crazy, but in Consumer Reports, it's consistently a number one best buy every single time. I can't ever remember any year that it has been beaten. But anyway, that's something that I'll have to deny later if somebody pins me down on it. But it does win Consumer Reports. And it can also power your refrigerator if we can physically connect your fridge to it. if there's the ability to get to the fridge with the plumbing, that gives us the ability to have purified water, not just going to a dedicated faucet at the kitchen sink or whatever sink you'd prefer it to be at, but we can also hook it up to the fridge so that you don't have to buy fridge filters anymore. I bought a fridge, going off on a tangent again, that's what I do. I bought a fridge early part of last year, and I'm not going to tell you the manufacturer because it doesn't really matter, but every 3 months I get a flyer in the mail, and they're offering me a special. I can get a year's worth of filters for only $120, normally $160. So in our earlier example, I was just using a nice $100 a year that most folks are spending on their fridge filters. Because the reality is that what we find is a lot of folks are trying to find cheap filters, aftermarket filters. Don't do that. I'll just tell you right now, it is not worth a couple dollars to have a piece of plastic that you're unsure of where it's made and what it can do. There have been horror stories about counterfeit filters being out there that are actually releasing contaminants into your water, which is exactly the opposite of what you were hoping or expecting it to do. So don't buy counterfeit imitation filters. If you absolutely have to buy fridge filters, you need to stick with the genuine ones or ones that are definitely certified. But the best option, get rid of your fridge filters altogether and put that money that you're spending on those towards the maintenance of a drinking water system that's not only going to give you better ice and cold water, but it's going to give you unlimited tap water at the kitchen sink. We can hook them into pot fillers. If you have more than one sink, we've got plenty of folks that wanted a drinking water faucet at the kitchen, and then another one in the master bathroom, which happened to be on the same level. And if we can do it, we will do it. Everything is fully customizable, and our K5 system has a full 10-year warranty on it. And it's, in most cases, the membrane, which does all the heavy lifting on making that water pure, the membrane will actually last 10 years. So if you have another refrigerator, we can hook that up. We can hook up unlimited numbers of refrigerators as long as they're not excessively far away from the unit. The unit does not need to be located underneath the kitchen sink. A lot of folks don't want to give up the space underneath the kitchen sink. It's already crowded enough underneath there. So our K5 has a hydraulic delivery system, which gives us the ability to mount it somewhere else that's more convenient, like in the garage, in a crawl space, in a basement. There's a lot of different options on where we can put it, because instead of it having the water being pushed out with an air charge tank like everybody else has, ours actually has a tank that uses your own water pressure to push the water out. So we call it the hydraulic delivery system, and it allows us the ability to put this thing in a pretty far away area. I've actually done them as far as 100 feet away from the kitchen before. So it can push a very long distance. But anyway, that's the nuts and bolts of how that thing works. We have, in the K5, we have up to 5 total cartridges, which is our standard purification. Plus, you can customize with, like I said, the mineral cartridge. If you have concerns with VOCs, like let's say paints, pesticides, things like that, this is a real popular extra cartridge for folks that have shallow wells, because they're concerned about farmland. They're concerned about all the chemicals that get sprayed on the yard finding their way down into the water, or it can get even scarier. It could be what kind of chemicals are your neighbors spraying on the yard that are going down into your water. Purified water is definitely the best, and that should be the goal for everybody for your health. the question comes up, what do we do with somebody that wants perfect water, but they don't just want it at the kitchen sink or in their refrigerator? And we are, as far as I know, we're the only one in this part of Virginia that specializes in what we call whole house reverse osmosis. And keep tuning in to this show, because now that I've let the cat out of the bag on that, whole house reverse osmosis is the only way to remove certain contaminants like silica, for example, which I'm not going to talk any more about silica now, but if you've heard that name before because you've had your water tested, you know what I'm talking about. It can leave deposits that you literally cannot remove with anything short of sanding them off with a pumice stone or something like that. But if you're tired of seeing the mineral streak coming down the front of the refrigerator at the dispenser, if you've got that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We can at least take care of that with our K5. But if you want to take care of deposits in the toilet bowls, on the shower doors, and everything, and we may need to go as extreme as Whole House RO, we do that. We've got plenty of systems out there, lots of experience. We do it. It's a very complex thing, but it's one of those things that we try to make it look simple. And a lot of folks that have tried to get into that are usually running into some problems later on when things interact not as they had expected. So, again, you can reach the team over at the Connecticut Richmond office at 877 609-2837. That's 877-60-WATER. Or you can go ahead and visit our website at connecticutrichmond.com. You've probably seen our trucks driving around, but if you can't seem to spell Connecticut, which I get that all the time, it's Kinetico, like kinetic energy with an O on the end. That's connecticutrichmond.com. That's one of the easiest ways to find us. If you want to drop us an email, easiest email is freewatertest@connecticutrichmond.com. And if you just want to lay back and watch some YouTube videos that are pretty informative, we have our YouTube channel at, you guessed it, Connecticut Richmond. Just look it up and you'll be able to find that. I think it's the only one out there with that name. But we've talked about RO, talked about the benefits, the fact that it will pay for itself in less than 3.5 years in most cases for a professional drinking water system. In the last episode, we even went as far as to say who couldn't use an extra $700 a year put back into their retirement plan. Or, heck, with the cost of everything right now, an extra $700 for gas and groceries goes a long way. So, that's a whole nother topic. But hopefully things will normalize here soon. We do some reverse osmosis in commercial and industrial. A lot of businesses have us. So if you're listening to the show and you've got a business, if you've got a break room, it's kind of funny. I don't know if I can say it, but DuPont actually has a few of our units, the drinking water systems in their break rooms. And there's another one, Aldi. See, I'm giving all these free plugs out. They've got, I think it's 3 down in their facility down south of Richmond. There's a lot of industrial places that, and those are the residential units that we put in there. So you can imagine if we put a residential unit in something big like an Aldi or a DuPont, you know that you're going to have no problem in your house. But we've got some, we call them commercial reverse osmosis. If you this is going to be the free plug episode, because I'm going to start telling you where you can go to get some amazing things. And downtown on Cary Street, there's a Capital One Cafe, and I'll say it. It's a little weird. It's like a bank with a coffee shop built into it. But if you go in there, we have the Connecticut purified water actually being made in the back room, and that is what they use to make all of their beverages over there. So it is. If you're at all on the fence on wondering if there is a difference, go have a Capital One Cafe coffee, and then go up the street to another one that starts with S, and you will definitely see a difference. So yeah, that's one of the more prominent ones that I can think of. We've got some reverse osmosis units at a lot of the Chick-fil-A's, primarily on their ice, which is the greatest ice ever. It's that rabbit pellet ice. You can't break your teeth on it. But they use purified water for the consistent perfection that it delivers, and it makes sure that water doesn't have any buildup that can actually destroy the machine that actually makes those pellets. So that machine is ridiculously expensive to have to replace. It's kind of like one of those old-fashioned ice cream makers where they spray water on the inside of a frozen drum and it's scraped off and then turned into the pellet. Well, there's some things in the water that reverse osmosis can peel out of there that will normally leave some pretty horrible deposits on that scraper, and that thing it's crazy how expensive that is. So rather than replace the scrapers, they've decided to upgrade the water, which I love, because not only are they making ice with it, but they're also doing things like lemonades, teas, coffees. So you can, in a lot of the Chick-fil-A's, you can get the ultimate in beverage water and ice. If anybody has any questions, comments, anything you'd like to hear about in an upcoming episode, we're going to be here every Saturday at 10 a.m. That's the plan. And if you can reach out to the team during the week, that gives us a chance to get your questions down, and we can prepare and make sure that we can give you a really good, not just a knee-jerk answer, but a really, well-researched answer that you're going to love. In appreciation for everybody listening all the way to this point, I'm going to go ahead and make a one-time special offer here that if anybody is interested in improving their drinking water in their own home, give us a call, 877-60-WATER, and if you mention the Boomtown radio, we're going to give you a special 10% off. So I appreciate everything and everybody and the time that you spent for the last hour. I'm Paul, your Connecticut Water Guy. Thanks for listening, and join us next Saturday morning for another edition of the Water Guy Show and ConnecticutRichmond.com.
You've been listening to the Connecticut Water Guy Hour. Join us next week for another edition with Paul, your Connecticut Water Guy. Opinions expressed on